Good afternoon. This is the August 3rd, 2022 meeting of the Planning Board with one agenda item to write a comment letter to Mass Housing on the Park Central 40B project. So how would you guys like to kick this off?
So I did start just capturing what our objectives are and what sources of information we have to kind of defend the factual positions. So I guess through Zoom, we'll share the document, right? Is that what we'll do and just talk about it? Or do you want me to, how do you want to facilitate this, Madam Chairwoman?
Share the application. Is that what you're thinking?
Or my notes. We can take notes, or I'm not sure how you want to do this. Because I've kind of created a just bullets that we want to try to convey facts about, and then what is the support? What is it that we want to say, and what's the supportive sources that we can use to defend what we're trying to say. So that was kind of my approach. I don't know if you or Deb or Jesse started anything separately.
I
took some notes too, but that sounds like a good approach to me.
Definitely.
So do you want me to share? Is that correct?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Colleen, could you help me be able to share?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
No worries.
I just want to point out that we have currently 5 attendees in the public attendee list.
And if I have typos, forgive me, because
hey, you started something, and that's good. Is it worth noting just that a couple of us had gone to the site visit? And just to say, I don't know if anybody, Marnie and I did attend the site visit the other day, but we were not actually allowed on the site.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to do a site visit.
I mean, most attendees, from various boards and committees left feeling like we maybe want to ask for it. I know it's separate from creating this, but we may want to have another attempt to have a visit onto the site. And I just wanted to report that the man that was there from Mass Housing, his name was Mike Busby, and he said if we need more time to just all it takes is an email, just say like I need 15 more days or something like that. I don't know whether if we have requested more time, but he made it sound like he would prefer that our letters are comprehensive, include the public and input from the boards, and there's no problem to ask for an extra 15 days is what he said.
Hey, Deb.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand what happened at the site visit. You arrived, you parked, like where did you guys park?
Yeah, so we parked along the, I don't know what's that, the main road up there past the Red Roof Inn.
Park Central Drive.
Park Central Drive, yeah. And there were representatives from the Park Central project. It was Bob DePietri and the attorney. His last name is Panos.
Jason
Panos. And then there was a landscape architect and another person working with the project. I didn't get his name, but they had kind of a flip chart, and they we kind of, I think, thought that we would be starting a conversation there, and then we would take a walk into the site. And, actually, somebody asked, is it marked where the buildings would be or the corners marked? And I think the response was that the site was the path wasn't really suitable to walk on. It was too thick or something like that. So we just really were maybe, I don't know, 20 feet or something from the entrance at the end there. Maybe it was 30 feet, I don't know. And they had like a flip chart, a paper flip chart, where the attorney mainly went kind of through things as like a presentation, is what happened, Jesse.
So was everybody from the town in that position of not being allowed on the site?
Yes, that's correct.
And were there people from the ZBA there, as far as you could tell?
Yeah, so from the ZBA, the chair was there, Dave Williams, and Craig Nicholson were there from ZBA. Marnie and I from planning. From select board, it was Mr. Stivers, Lisa Braccio, and Andrew Dennington. Conservation, Ben Smith, Kevin Farrington. Historical, Kevin Miller. Police, somebody from police, acting police chief Newell. Somebody from fire, I don't know his name. Dano.
Lieutenant
yeah,
Dano.
From fire. Nobody from the public was invited, I think. So as boards and committees, I think that's everybody. I might have missed. I'm sorry.
Freddie.
Oh, Freddie from open space. And there was one other person, housing, Shopsy maybe, or there's another woman, I think, standing next to you. So there's about, what, 10 or 15 of us?
So did you have like a clear line of sight across the entire site, so to speak? Like, could you see?
No.
Could you see directly all the way across to
No.
the end of the area, so to speak?
No. So we walked up, I guess, to the end of Park Central Drive. It's gated off. There's a gate there, and it was locked. I believe someone went over to unlock the gate. So we thought we were maybe starting a presentation and then we were going to do a little field trip and do some walking. Most of us had like hiking shoes. We're going to walk up there. But they said it was too much brush and they hadn't cleared the lot enough for us to walk up there. Wouldn't be suitable. And so we literally were standing around under a shade tree. Some people weren't under a tree. It was very hot that day, but we couldn't see anything, Jesse. We could not see into the lot at all.
So that strikes me as odd because I've done site visits as a planning board member before, and sometimes you're like just hiking through woods. In fact, often when I was doing things with Jennifer Burney and Don Morris, we'd be like looking for markers where there was no path at all.
Right.
So kind of weird that anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, Ben Smith asked, are the sites, are there going to be markers where the buildings would be? That was his request. Like when we go up there, we'll be able to see where the buildings are planned, marked in the corners. And at least I think we found out at that point we wouldn't be walking up there. So, I mentioned to Mike Busby that we would be interested in a visit, that we weren't able to do it that day, but we would, I think everybody left thinking that they would like to go back for a visit.
And is that supposed to happen before our extension with mass housing for comment goes up, or?
Yeah, no. I don't know what he said, if he really answered my question, but I thought he wanted us to go directly to the proponent. I'm not sure if he answered my question.
And I think we should just ask for more time. One, because it's putting an awful lot of strain on during a highly vacation, college move-in period. So I would prefer the 15 days regardless. And he said it's easy. He said they were going to be 90 to 100 days for review anyway. So now an additional 15 days is not a big deal. Mark Purple is supposed to be the one to inquire. Deb, I think we did already forward a request to extend to Mark Purple, but I think maybe we ask again to say, based on Mr. Busby's recommendation, we would like to take advantage of the 15 days.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
because I think there's a lot to, I feel like this process will be kind of a big, let's put it all in a big bowl and then filter down to how exactly, what is it that we want to mainly focus on.
It's very curious that there was a site walk without going on site. Do you know if back in 2013 or whatever, if that site walk was on site?
Well, I did hear a few people mention that was the last time that they'd been on the site. I
Was the
don't
previous site
recall
walk?
who, so I think some folks had been up there before.
Colleen, I still can't get on. It says host still is disabled my participant from screen sharing.
Hey, Marnie, what if you just like email it out to us so we can just look at it on our own?
Oh yeah, I could do that.
You
Why don't
mind?
I do that? Nope.
We have it now. It looks like Debbie, I gave it to Debbie instead. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Put you to work, Debbie.
I didn't even see it.
Marnie, do you
So-
mind emailing it to me anyway?
Yep, hold on.
Please.
I just have to do it separately. Just give me a second then.
Thanks.
Yep. So that's on town email, and I just sent that.
Thank you.
So based on the bullets that I gathered from the other night, I first wanted to discuss convey facts regarding the access egress, pedestrian safety, sidewalk access, vehicular safety, the use variance, and then Concom. And those were kind of the major bullets that I captured. And I just didn't know if there were other bullets that any of you had come across that we would want to kind of substantiate, or any other thoughts.
Well, Mr. Rose had an interesting point the other night that's kind of stuck in my mind, that the state doesn't allow egress onto Route 9. And in my mind, it's for a good reason. It's like not even remotely possible to have traffic from that size project spilling out onto Route 9 that close to the on-ramp for 495. I guess that kind of ties into what you said, but Mr. Rose pointed out that it's a state regulation that prohibits egress onto Route 9, and yet it's the state that's imposing, through another mass general law. I don't know.
I did
Something
actually
along the lines
ask Mr. Busby specifically about that question, and he basically said they're two separate agencies. His job is to just kind of look at the application and establish if kind of all the requirements that are required from a mass perspective, that a lot of the egress access, if mass housing approves it, it really falls to your town ZBA to be able to enforce that. So he said, you already have a development up here. So since there already is something existing and you're letting traffic come in and out of that onto Route 9, he said it would be, not for his department or his function to comment on. Okay, so these are the points. I don't know if there's anything else that you guys had, and then so we can kind of just talk about detail that I had around access and egress.
Marnie, I had one thing, and I'm confused. I was more confused after the site visit where we sat around, stood around. We had talked about the height and as being 48 feet, right? 4 floors, 48 feet. But on the flip chart, we were shown a scenario where the attorney Pano said that they would be using the topography for sort of a underground garage. And so Freddie Gillespie asked for some clarification that from one side, it looks like 48 feet, 4-story building as measured from the ground. But if each building has an underground garage on the other side, that's actually 5 stories. So the reason I think it's interesting is that we clarify that, but also there was a concern mentioned, that we don't have, well, first of all, how is it measured? Is it measured from the ground? Is it 4 stories or is it 5 stories? And do we have a ladder truck? That was asked specifically at our gathering. If there's a fire, the fire's on the side with the 5 stories, does Southborough have a fire truck that can get to their top floor on the walkout garage side or the garage under the building side? So I feel like that needs to be clarified. To me, it's not clear in the packet, and also it was, even more confusing, I would say, when we met.
And I will say, prior to the site visit, I called the fire department and spoke with Lieutenant Dano, who I subsequently met on site, and he told me that their fire truck clears 10 stories. And so it really depends on the way that the fire truck would be able to access the property. So the farther away, the lower it goes because of the height. Obviously, with like a lever kind of perspective, the taller it is to the closer it is to the building, the higher you can go. But as your access to the building goes out, it doesn't go as high. So they'll have to look at that. But I don't believe they commented it specifically, but I think that is a good point to raise, and they would absolutely, in their suggested variances that they would have to ask a variance. It's 48 feet, 4 floors. Our regulations are 45 feet, 3 stories.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's not that we wouldn't have a safety vehicle, because it sounds like we've got one that reaches. And I recall a couple of years ago at town meeting, the town funded a larger, custom fire truck vehicle to be able to reach high floors, et cetera. But in just keeping in mind, one of the things that they said was that the way that the parking was designed was around each of the buildings rather than a giant parking lot. And that was sort of to reduce the footprint or something like that is what they said. So I do think it's very much, maybe that's beneficial. The fire trucks could get in there, or maybe it's not conducive for the truck to get in there. I think that's, that could be a potential safety issue. I guess that's a question maybe for Karina. When you talk about the height of a building and there's sort of an underground garage, do you talk about the height of the building being at where it's livable space, or if there's an underground garage that you can walk into, is it from there? Because I left feeling like 48 feet wasn't the height of the building. If there are 5 stories.
Yeah, in chapter 174-2, there in the zoning code is a definition for height. It's a pretty long paragraph, but it describes there that it's the vertical difference between the average or the mean finished ground elevation of all sides of the building or structure and the elevation of the highest point of the roof for flat roofs to the deck line of a mansard roof and to the mean height between eaves and ridge for gables, hip and gable roofs. This definition shall not include signs and the structural features exempt by 174-15 hereof and extending to more than 20 feet above the permitted height. For buildings subject to site plan approval under 174-10 hereof, the average finished ground elevation shall not be raised above the original natural ground through fill or regrading to more than 2 feet above the center line grade of the frontage street opposite the proposed building unless the approved site plan provide for such buildup. So it's quite a lengthy definition, but there is one which defines it.
Thank you. And just for the record, it is a flat, we were told it's a flat roof. It might be.
Flat roof.
Yeah, thank you.
So we have access, egress, pedestrian safety, vehicular safety, resident safety, the use variance, Concom, and then height. I think maybe this is maybe like dimensional.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that goes back to resident safety, right? And what would you guys, how would you qualify the height issue? As more zoning? I mean, basically Mr. Busby basically said it really 40Bs can have liberty to do what they kind of want to do.
Yeah,
I think it's a
that
dimensional requirement.
yeah.
Okay. And so that was it. And the only other thing that the only other thing that I wanted to call out is the I don't have a signed application, so I have a signed letter of intent, but I don't have a signed application from it's on section 5 of the financials. And so I just don't know if there's a signed, it's basically kind of under pains and penalties of perjury that the information above is accurate. So I'm assuming it's signed, but I don't know if we should call that out.
They required to provide a signed copy for the mass housing, right? I mean, I think we should get what mass housing has. Someone did ask, for example, about an abutters list. And the response was, well, we don't need that for mass housing. So we didn't provide it, but we'll provide it for a ZBA package. So in my mind, I said, well, okay, then we should have everything mass housing has. So if they have a signed copy, I'd like the signed copy.
Okay.
So there actually is a signed copy under section 6.5, which is the same thing, it looks like, as under section 6.
I missed that. Okay. And why would they put it in there and not sign it?
It's,
Thank you. I missed that entirely.
and my thought, though I don't know how to verbalize this in a letter, is that he's come forward with the plan that was rejected the first time. Like, this is the worst case scenario that he's coming forward with again.
Can you just clarify that point? So to the mass housing, or what was originally proposed to ZBA after mass housing approval?
Well, so the first iteration of this project, he proposed 5 3-story buildings, I think, right on top of Tara and Bantry, which the town rejected and caused them to negotiate for that use variance.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So now he's coming back with apartment buildings right on top of Terra and Bantry where he started before.
Just more of same units, do you know?
It's is it 3-4 story buildings? It's less
Oh, it's-
higher buildings, less number of buildings.
I think it's 4 buildings, but I thought it was 5 stories if we include the parking garage, or do we include the parking garage?
Well, the height may be 5 stories, but it's considered 4-story buildings because it's 4 livable stories, but the height is probably 5.
Okay.
And if there's a desire to work with the town to get this done, I don't know why he would come forward with a plan that he knows the town will not accept. There'll be great debate over it anyway.
Mimi,
And-
you have somebody in the audience that is got their hand raised, Lincoln Merripew.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hi. I was at the meeting the other night. I don't know why my camera's not on, but I talked to somebody on Terra Road right after the meeting the other night, and one of was a resident from Terra Road, and he said what the builder did last time is the same tactic, which is propose the buildings right up close to Terra Road, like he is this time.
Right.
And then he said to those people complained. And so he said, okay, I'll move them away from Terra Road and I'll put all the only entrance on Flag. If you guys agree to say that you're in favor of it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he may be doing the same tricky tactic again, which is like, a big ugly building right next to a neighborhood. And then, oh, I'll back down, but he's actually backing down to what he wants in the first place. Okay, thanks. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also I noticed that he's misquoted the number of affordable units the town needs. He has 57, but if you go on MC, Mass Housing and Community Development, and look up the subsidized housing inventory for Southborough, it's 49.
He said 56.
57.
Oh, 57. And was that in the narrative, the upfront narrative?
Yeah,
Okay.
under what's that under? The development narrative, yeah, 1.4.
Mimi, do you know if the subsidized housing online was based on the 2010 census? Okay,
Yeah.
so there's some information that we can sort of guesstimate. I think it is more around 50 something.
Well,
That's
except for he says, he specifically notes the standard housing inventory on the Mass Department of Housing and Community Development. And it's the same percentage, 8.65 from the 2010 census is what he references, but says the town is required to produce an additional 57. But based on that census, it's at 49.
And Mimi, I'm sorry to do this to you and make this so painstaking. Where is that in the narrative?
It's under section 1.4, under the last paragraph, affordable housing. It's at the bottom.
Got it. Okay. Colleen, I'm going to be using your sticky notes and your highlighter.
You got all the fancy stuff.
So I make sure I kind of tag all these places.
So just to be clear, a quick note on that subsidized housing inventory. Based on the current subsidized housing inventory we have, which is still based on the 2010 census, it appears that we would need about 46, 47 units to meet the 10% threshold. If it was based on a 2020 census, which we're estimating right now, we don't have the number, about 3,700, 3,800, it would be about 79 or 80 units needed.
Right. So just to be clear, he references the 2010 census in the SHI that's on the website. So
Okay.
those, I don't know where that number came from.
It might be
His
old.
57.
Okay.
Well, his 57 is not based on
The current,
what's
the
on,
accurate,
what's
yeah.
online.
And what, again, that number was 47?
I thought it was 49 because the what's online at DCHD says that we have 3,433 units and 294
Oh my God, I
Um,
can't type that fast.
subsidized affordable units.
That's close, but we received an updated subsidized inventory housing on April 25th, and we now have 297 total units.
Oh, okay. So they haven't updated their own website then.
Yeah, I was looking at that this morning myself. So we're sending, yeah, we were looking at it closer to, so.
So Karina, that's 297 on, excuse me, on the DHCD inventory.
Correct.
Okay, and then divided by what's the number of total units for the
So-
calculation?
So you want 10% of your year-round housing units. So our year-round housing units based on 2010 census is 3,433. So that would mean 343.3 units are needed to meet safe harbor. And we have 297 according to the DHCD. So
So that's 46.
right, 46.3.
So the 2020 housing units per the 2020 census is 3,763. So you can figure out what we're really needing.
Yeah, and that's based on us looking, you know, Colleen looked it up online, but that's not from the DHCD. Just to be clear, right? That's a census number that you
It's the
found.
census number of household, not housing units. There's a different number for households.
Right, and it has to include, so the DHCD, the reason they haven't updated to the 2020 census is because they're waiting for the seasonal, there's a category of homes that the federal level has not provided yet in the census. And it'll update.
It would be
Yeah.
it's the seasonal ones, correct? The
Yeah,
seasonal.
That's
So
right.
that probably won't affect Southborough all that much.
Although I think the point still is valid that he has cited the same thing and the 2010 census, and he cites 57 units. So the point is his math is incorrect. So if he's going to
He's
cite the right
incorrect.
thing, it
Either
should
way, he's
hit-
incorrect.
right. He should be
Right.
saying 46 units. Yep.
Or actually, not to split hairs, but it's maybe 47 would be because if we were, 0.3 short, technically we wouldn't be over 10%.
They don't round up or down to a whole unit. How do you get a 0.3 of a housing unit?
Right. That's why I would, err on the side of caution and go just won't round it up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's our
I would assume that they
calculation.
round up.
Yeah, our calculation, they don't provide that number of units required. We calculate it and come up with the decimal point. So that's not DHCD.
Okay. Is there anything else that other people identified that we should include at least in the top bullets before we go in through like any detail?
Well, you have feasibility at the bottom. I mean, that's just as legitimate to me as anything else. We would review feasibility on a project this size. Marnie, you had you spelled it out actually very well with your bullet points all the way at the very bottom.
Oh,
That is feasibility.
Yep.
Me, anyway.
and I think our concern is we never saw any of these
No.
addressed by the zoning board the last time
Well,
around.
to be precise, from what I remember, Mr. Bartolini did his own feasibility study and presented it during the hearings. And there was not much, room for discussion. So that to me, based on how things have concluded with those hearings, brings into question, what's really going on in terms of feasibility analysis with this project. And I would add, I don't know how we would approach this, and I don't want to start, off on the wrong foot with the CBA, but I just wonder, how do we pose questions, within our town of, just maybe ask, will the ZBA, it'd be nice if we had learned from some of the maybe, perceived shortcomings of the previous process, where in point of fact, it was the ZBA itself that did a lot of this kind of analysis, and it really wasn't up for discussion and it wasn't transparent. So I think transparency of feasibility analysis is, something that we would strongly request and recommend this time around.
And remember that you can ask for peer review on just about anything at the cost of the applicant.
Which
Traffic.
the only thing I remember that was done the last time was traffic, but
Narrow.
that also was like, how do I put this? It was done by the proponent's choice of providers.
Yeah, you should be able to pick and
Right.
he pays for it, but he doesn't pick who does it.
Right.
Didn't the traffic study guy peer review himself? Didn't he change
He did.
firms?
He
You're
did.
kidding.
Well,
No.
No, she's right.
Oh my
I know
Lord,
that's
was this a
true.
bad process?
Oh, oh
I
my
think-
God.
I think what ended up, if I remember, the abutters had their own traffic
They did.
analysis, which was very different.
Hmm.
So I wanted to bring up, somebody had tried to get some clarification about the water. In the plan, it talks about the pumping station that's outside of this project. And I don't know, maybe one of you guys can help me understand, why is it outside of this project? Should be part of this project because it's needed. I think I was confused, and maybe I just simply don't understand, but what I read was that it's not, and I think it was stated by the attorney that it's not part of this project. But in terms of talking about feasibility, I would think that it would need to be part of this project.
I did ask Mr. Busby if they had training, because I do think our zoning board has not had to go through any of this 40B. There could be some residual people that were on the first process, but I think that if there was some level of training or education, just to, what they have, what is in their purview, that they don't have to say yes to a 40B, that there's, Mr. Busby said multiple times, egress can shut this down. There are things that the ZBA has within their purview. And I just feel like understanding that and having an appreciation for, how far do you push an envelope would be really important.
Listen, your town council, Tallerman, is well-versed on this. He could give maybe a workshop for people so they can understand the 40B process better.
I think it would be helpful. I think it would be helpful for all although planning board isn't involved, I think it would be helpful for us to be involved. I think Concom should be involved. I do think it would be just a really good thing for preparation for, you know, what we can feel comfortable doing.
Yeah.
How would that work? Just, I know this isn't part of this letter, but is that something we would just kind of put a letter out and request it? And, or would we ask the other boards if they would want to take it on?
You know, I would think through the process, you could obviously speak as a board. It's not going to be before planning board by any means, but you could certainly direct the ZBA to ask questions that you would be concerned about as a board if it were in front of you.
Okay.
You have more experience in this, that's for sure.
I can
Oh.
tell you that in the past, when we had prior town council, that he provided workshops on various zoning issues. Mimi, you must recall, right? It wasn't too long ago, maybe 4 years ago, where he offered up, you know, for the planning board, like he had a couple different sessions depending on the boards and when he could meet them. That must come, it probably is a request to Mark Purple.
Yeah.
So if we want to just kind of go through, I know you, I've just sent this to everybody on the phone. The development has proposed direct access from Flag Road via Route 9 westbound and southbound to Park Central Drive, a gently winding roadway, which is also accessible from Blackthorn Drive. So this is what's stated, and I think the bullet points below, the town had taken a position to deny access to Flag Road if the developer failed to meet resolutions with Mass DOT regarding access egress to and from Park Central. Mass DOT has denied egress from Park Central beyond existing infrastructure to Route 9 westbound, and residents of Blackthorn Drive entered a covenant which restricts use of access to emergency use only, whereby eliminating broad public secondary access and egress. And then I've provided the source data. So I don't know if there's anything else that we'd want to include in some of those key points and the source data.
I just, one more thing, Marnie, I think you had asked the question, I think it was you that asked the question about whether the future use of the site.
Oh, that was Freddie.
Freddie, okay, intended to be an
Olin
an additional industrial park. Freddie was asking, and she asked several times because she didn't get an answer, as far as I can tell, whether or not they would be using the same infrastructure that would be put into place, a road from, if it's connecting to Flag Road, would it be, or up down Blackthorn? I think her question was whether or not that would be the same for the 40B as for industrial. And I think what she was getting at is, you know, that we would need to know that as part of this project. I don't think I heard an answer. Did you?
So-
it wasn't clear, right?
So Karina, is there a local bylaw that does not allow commercial traffic to have that major access through residential areas?
I think we do, don't we?
I thought we did.
I do too. I think we do too.
There are truck exclusions.
It's certainly why the
Specifically-
zoning is the way it is if that's there.
But we'd have to look into the current code to see if anything is in there specifically.
I think her also point to that was something around the exemptions that they would need to take for Concom relative to putting up a 40B, taking certain exemptions that would be afforded a 40B, but yet having a roadway, the same roadway that you're taking exemptions for to 40B be accessible for industrial. And that's the bigger issue.
That's right. I mean, I think the next step is to say if that's the case and it's intended to be for a non-40B part of the project, then it should follow Southborough bylaw and not get the exemption. So I think she was trying to tease that out, but I don't believe she received an answer. It was very unclear.
This is going to sound awful, but you could always ask for Flag Road to be updated to current public road standards, which is next to impossible.
I think the neighbors have taken the other tack that there's already a warrant article passed last year, I think at town meeting, to request a truck exclusion on Flag Road, implying that there's too much traffic, and there's traffic studies on Flag Road to show that.
That's actually one thing that I wanted to ask about Flag Road is there were two things. So in 2016, the same meeting as the use variance, I recall there was put a gate up at Flag Road, and I don't remember if that got a vote. There was, and Deb, I actually want to say you might have been the person that put it up as a citizen's petition.
Yeah, I have it. It was passed. It was a special town meeting. I owe you that, Marnie. I was going to get you the vote. But it was essentially a if in the event of future development that the terminal end of Flag Road at Route 9 would be
Needed.
would be gated, I guess. So there will be no access onto Flag Road, no left turn from any future development onto Flag Road. And that did pass.
Except for emergency vehicles.
Yeah, that's correct. It would be gated, and exactly, just as if we have other examples of it in town, whatever type of gate. And I do remember even the police fire chiefs gave input into that warrant article as it was going through the various boards that, we have other examples of gated roads like that in town. And that was special town meeting 2016, and I have a copy of the article. I forgot to send it to you, Marnie, but
Oh, no problem.
I can send it around.
Yeah,
But
that'll be
did
helpful.
pass, yeah.
And so the other thing that you just mentioned, the one for truck exclusion, did that actually go to a vote?
Right, so that was town meeting last year, and that proponent was Jonas Linden. And he proposed at annual town meeting 2021 under citizens petition to request that the select board give Flag Road a truck request from Mass DOT a truck exclusion for Flag Road.
And do you know if that actually went up to vote?
So that passed at town meeting.
I'll get that detail from Jim.
Yeah, it passed, and that started a, kind of global look at truck exclusions in town. Where are they? Because longer story, but if where would the trucks go? What would the route be, et cetera. But so no action has been taken on that yet, but there was a study done and the results are just available, et cetera. So the select board have not taken a decision yet on that.
And they never took a decision on the special town meeting one, is my recall, correct?
That's correct. They did decide that it was debated, and they decided to take a look at some of the ancillary roads. If you close off Flag, for example, and there's trucks, are they going to go down other roads, and that would be unfair to those neighbors? And I want to take a look at the circulation, how the trucks get across town, and et cetera. So it was a sort of a larger, they call it a global traffic study that was undertaken by VHB, and that report actually just became the draft, or maybe it's a final report, just became available about like in the last week that I'm aware.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's interesting that this is coming in at this time, because I think, I'm not sure if anyone was thinking about Park Central when that, that was done, but that was really more for heavy commercial vehicle exemption. I think it's called HCVE or something like that. That's what that was for. But it should be noted that the reason that the Mr. Linden put in the citizens petition was because there had been a traffic study on Flag Road, and it did, based on the volume of trucks using the road, it did cross the threshold so that the road could be a candidate for truck exclusion. So that's why the select board took up the matter. They took it seriously, and it was voted at town meeting, and they took it seriously.
Okay, so I will reach out to Jim Haggerty and get the count. Okay. So those are kind of my major bullet points around egress, access. If anyone has any other comments, you can look at the source document separately, but I think,
You know, again, I don't mean to split hairs, but on your bullet point, Mass DOT had denied it egress from Park Central beyond existing under Route 9 westbound, like maybe just working in there on the basis of traffic and safety concerns or something along those
Yeah.
lines.
This is kind of ancillary, but some of us were watching this at the time, that there is a Route 9 corridor 495 interchange group or something that had been kind of lobbying, I guess, to try to get a kind of access road or something along Route 9 that in a different configuration onto 495. Actually, Carolyn Dykema and Jamie Eldridge, I believe, came to one of the select board meetings a number of years ago to tell us that they had put it up on the tip, which, that means that it was going to be designed and studied. And just a number of us were looking at, I think, Mimi, I think it came up under the master plan meeting. And someone at the meeting, I think it was Bill Sines, looked online, and that opportunity is no longer on the tip. So the tip is the something improvement plan. I don't remember what the T stands for, but it's what
Transportation.
Oh, good. It's what Mass DOT would have been looking at, and it would have been another avenue for the proponent to explore, so that traffic, trucks, et cetera, don't come onto a scenic roadway. By the way, this is a scenic roadway and state designated. And so, even I remember going to the townhouse, and there was outreach from Mass DOT letting us know when that project was going to be going through, and they were taking, comments from, interested parties. So it seems like that's just not on the tip anymore. Maybe, bridges and other things that are crumbling have come up. So we don't see that right now. As of anyway, at master plan when we were looking at it recently. So I guess what I'm saying is that doesn't appear to be a potential avenue as far as I can tell.
and I had cited in my thing the 495 report. Where is it? The final report of the Department of Transportation. So they basically said in this recommendation, like left turns from the new Connect Road would be prohibited to reduce traffic on Flag Road.
Yes, that's right.
So I pulled that. That was from 2013, and that's when there were all sorts of plans to do these like fly arounds and everything, and those are no longer available. So
that's right.
I try to kind of put a lot of the facts and try to pull in a lot of the state evidence, as well as some of the letters from our own select board, to like the letter to MIPA, where they basically said, this is going to be a problem. So I think if this is fine, I can take a shot at like consolidating, okay, how do we present this? And then how do we source the documents? And my guess is that instead of links, I'm going to have to actually provide the content. It might be a very long letter. So the extra 15 days, I think, is going to be needed. Safety. So the one thing that I just want to say is on the application page 7 to 24 under section existing utilities and infrastructure, it requires a yes, no, and description. And the applicant has answered sidewalk access to site as yes and indicates flag road. Where is it? It is. What section is this? Let me just write the section down. It's the I guess it's under the property cards, 1.6 property record cards. It's the tail end of those. And so they answer sidewalk access to site, yes. Description, Tara Road, Flag Road, and Blackthorn Road. I didn't know about Tara Road or Blackthorn Drive.
They're wider roads than Flag, but they don't have sidewalks. I just looked that
Okay.
up because they're doing road improvement projects in town, and I happened to look those two up. One of them is on the list for road improvement. So I just, like 2 days ago, looked up and they don't have sidewalks. Plus I walk up there sometimes. They do not have sidewalks. So Blackthorn doesn't either. None of them do.
Okay. So I just think that's a mischaracterization.
That's a
the
nice way of
applicant.
putting it.
And then I know they have to, we did ask about the use variance at the site.
Yeah.
And Jason Panos, the lawyer, said, someone said, is it really active? And he said, yes and no. So yes, because the use variance was never appealed. So by legal terms, yes, it is still active. No, because it is really in direct applicability to the original comprehensive permit filed for the 40A and 40B. And since they're not going after a 40A, 40B development, that ineffectually it is not active. So they, according to the application guidelines, had to say that it is still active in the application process. So that was his answer to that. So one, I think at least they acknowledge that it is not applicable for a 40B for this and kind of any of that. But I didn't really understand why they would put that a use variance. I didn't see anything specifically requesting like a yes, no, and then what it is, it was kind of part of the narrative.
Yeah. So so you can't have it both ways. If the use variance is still in effect, you can't have access through Blackthorn. All those buildings can't be on top of Tara and Bantry. There needs to be 21 acres of open space deed protected. So this plan wouldn't work if the use variance was still active.
Yeah, we didn't get into the details. And I think it's a separate question still for the covenant versus the use variance. Although the covenant was included as the use variance, I think we still need our town council to opine on the covenant that the Blackthorn Road neighbors signed to assess if it is still active, based on the language of how it would be inactivated.
Yeah, I'll just add, I had never read or seen the covenant before, but we went online and it's listed as active online. We went to Worcester Registry of Deeds and just pulled it down. Now, maybe their website's not up to date, but it looks like it would need to be withdrawn if it were not active. So at least online, it appears active.
Well, I mean, you file things with it's just a filing cabinet.
It's just
I don't think you unfiled. The use variance is there too.
Oh, okay.
But they went hand in hand. I think the covenant was a condition of the use variance.
While it still stands as a separate condition. And so that's where I pulled the abandonment of the project, which specifically states it would only have to be agreement upon written notice to abutters, provided that no termination shall be effective unless and until the developer have relinquished all rights and all necessary permits and have issued for the project either component in a form satisfactory to the abutters and withdrawn all pending applications for necessary permits for the project. So one would think that if this is active as a covenant freestanding, that this would deny their ability to access Blackthorn as a public road. But I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on TV.
I try too sometimes. Do we want to like get I mean, for our letter, do we need town council to help us to identify whether that's a point?
I think we
in our
should,
letter?
because I think that strengthens the access egress component.
I agree.
So that was kind of all those points that I had around access egress. We just talked about the safety issue. I haven't pulled in a lot. I just pulled in kind of some of the pictures and some of the traffic study, and then I ran out of steam.
So we've been thinking about safety in terms of like to pedestrians, right, as
Yeah.
well as vehicular safety, right? So two different kinds of safety.
Resident, I think pedestrian, resident of town central, Park Central itself, and then vehicular. So I think three safety components.
Okay, yeah, I think that's kind of important. Just so as FYI, I mean, a while ago, many years ago, we had asked for a, I guess it was, we asked for the police chief to give us a copy of any crash information or anything on file having to do with I guess it's an accident report at the at Flag Road and Route 9. I think, you know, if we're going to be factual, we probably, I mean, I don't know if we're going to get the acting police chief to help us on this safety part, but we know that there have been additional accidents. And in fact, there was an accident
Yesterday.
at Cumberland Farms yesterday. I didn't get the details, but that's correct. So we know there's at least one more. And I think it would be, you know, factual if we maybe asked the police chief, acting police chief, for the accident history at that intersection.
I remember there was something online where you could, where you could ask, you could actually pull data.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I have one going, you know, as part of my files from way back, but I've not asked for it in 5 years.
And we have a hand raised, but I don't think we can access it because Colleen's not sitting here. So we can come out and.
You know, when I went on,
Oh, that's no longer up. Never mind.
okay.
And then there are various traffic studies, but they're old, except for the one that was just done. Deb, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that, but is there a way I can delegate a component of this for someone to pull the pedestrian and anything from the most recent traffic study that was done?
Yeah, sure. I'll take on something. Anything you need.
Maybe just review that most recent town study.
Yeah, happy to. But do you know what year that was, Marnie? I don't even know how to find this.
No, the one that you just said they did.
Oh, from like 2016 or something back then? I don't even know the date. I'll look.
So the select board just
The
did
select
one,
board
didn't they?
one that you just mentioned.
Oh,
the
that,
townwide?
okay. Yep, that's really for trucks, but
Oh,
yeah.
it's just for trucks. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that can maybe go into vehicular, at least volume.
I'll take a look at it. Maybe there's trip counts and stuff in there as well. I
Okay.
was focused on some of their conclusions, but I can go back and take a look.
And then I'm gonna say Lincoln Merrihew, when he attended our planning board meeting the other night, had asked specifically that we detail pedestrian versus vehicular safety. I know he's part of our attendees. I'm just wondering if you had any specific content, facts, or sources that you could point us to. Hi, Mr. Merrihew, you're on. Or maybe not.
I don't see him elevated.
He's in our room.
Oh, he is, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
but we can't hear him.
How about now?
Oh, now
Yep.
we can.
Okay, so I don't have any records of injuries or anything, but it may be worth noting in your report that most of the roads off of Flag Road, and we could come up with a count, are dead-end streets. What that means is that anyone who wants to take a walk or a bike or anything else is going to come off those dead-end streets onto Flag. It's the only source for like a long walk, let's say over a quarter mile for Tara, Bantry, Eastgate Farms, Redgate Road, Hickory, that whole strip of cul-de-sacs, and actually, a lot of Lovers Lane too. So part of the reason you have all the pedestrian traffic out there, which is runners and bikers and everything else, is it's the only road to walk on. There's no other way. You're not going to walk out to Route 9, and you're not going to walk on Route 30 probably. But for most of the people immediately in the area of Flag's the only choice. So that's why there's so much traffic. They don't have any other option. That's part one. Part two, it may also be worth noting that we've got 2 schools off of Deerfoot, which is Flag adjacent. And a lot of kids walk to school in the morning. And when they walk to school in the morning, that's rush hour. And if you have 200 new units with 2 cars per, that's 400 cars potentially trying to commingle with walkers and students. So those are the aspects I was trying to point out.
Awesome.
There's not even an option for Flag adjacent people. I live on Flag Road, so I run out here all the time, but I see pedestrians all the time because there's nowhere else to go. If you want I did find one other semi-related fact. I have a couple of old maps of Southborough, and Flag Road is on a map dating back to 1831.
Oh, that's
So
a good one.
this road is, designed for 1 horse and a carriage at a time. That's before cars were invented. And it's the way I'm thinking about Flag Road now is like it's a big balloon, and the more stuff we put into it, it's going to pop. And in my opinion, I'm trying to look for a visual yeah. So that was the nature of the pedestrian safety. It's just there's no other pedestrian out. There's no paths out. There are no sidewalks. There's not even shoulders on Flag Road. There's nowhere to be except in the road for all these people. And we could probably do a house count, how many houses total are on all the cul-de-sacs that are, off of Flag or something like that. But yeah, it's pretty significant.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your additional clarification on that.
I'm writing my own letter. I'm going to write my own letter too. So I'm excited to listen to you guys. So whatever I write is going to be consistent.
Thanks.
Can you hear me?
Ross, is that you?
Yes, this is Ross Fulton. I'm at 42 Flake Road. I just wondered on safety, you've written pedestrians, if there's anything that should be included about bikes, as Lincoln just brought up, because a lot of people bike as well. And I don't know if
Totally.
with widening the road, you would need bike lanes, in addition to the sidewalks. That's all I got.
Thank you. Colleen, you indicated that even to come up to today's standards. Are there standards that
Yes, there's
you cite?
Yeah, there's they should be by the DPW, but yeah, there's certain road widths, all sorts of different standards for a public road, and the town can be,
right. Yep.
the town can be more strict. I don't know where it is though. That's a Karina question because I'm not as familiar with the bylaws here.
Oh yeah, so we definitely have those types of standards. I was just wondering, in I guess every town has their own, because Cambridge has certain standards. You have to have a bike lane, you have to, so I didn't know if there's something that we could, at a higher level, statewide, that there are recommendations, and then each town does its own thing.
Well, I'm not sure if, is the town part of, is it Smart Streets?
Complete streets.
Complete Streets, that's one. Thank you, Mimi. Yeah, so that's part of the grants. There's money out there to be had to add those things to the community, bike lanes, sidewalks, things like that. So those are, I could certainly look into it a little more.
Okay. And then beyond vehicular safety, I think we have some of the traffic studies that were done. I think the abutters did do a traffic study as well. And then resident safety, we cite the fire access and emergency access, basically. Sorry to make you all nauseous. Use variance. I think the use variance, I'm going to put covenant. So that's maybe something, I don't know if Mr. Tallerman will be able to do this 22 plus 15 days so that we can get it in, but I think that would be a useful evaluation for him. And then the final thing that I just did a little stuff on was Concom, and he neglects to mention that Concom denied the application, and he appealed it to the DEP, and over the 5 years, nothing has moved. So he implied that they were working together. So I didn't know if we wanted to bring that up in our letter.
Yeah, I think just to mention, there's so many factual inaccuracies in the application.
I think that goes to the character of the applicant.
I don't think we'll mention that in the letter.
And let me just ask on that perspective. So I guess, we've covered many of the main points, and I guess from a next steps perspective, there's a couple of ways you could kind of put this letter together. Of course, I don't even know if he'll read the letter. So is there a way that we want to kind of executive summary? Would you want it in, I don't know what the best form of communication is. Is it a PowerPoint slide? Is it a Microsoft Word document? Is it Word that we would traditionally submit our comments on?
I would think a Word document. Just
I was
a
thinking
letter.
that too.
Okay.
Yeah. Just, and at the bottom, sincerely yours, members of the planning board or something like that.
And the
Is this
letter,
going- Oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh yeah, it would go to the mass housing to Mr. Busby's attention.
Well,
I
wouldn't
think
we
so,
like
yeah.
CC the ZBA and the select board too?
Yes.
Stop.
So would you guys be comfortable with a draft where I kind of summarize the major issues, kind of like what I have done here? Like, these are the kind of the key objectives that we're trying to go through. And maybe it's like the kind of I don't know if it's a table, like the point and the rationale, and then maybe have subsequent sections which he can go deeper dive into for each section. With source documents either linked or physically included into the document. And which would you prefer? Physically included into the document? Assume that he's not going to press links.
That's
Okay.
what I would say.
Okay.
Marnie, I've also seen, I like the executive summary on the top, just in case somebody's not a reader, but of course, we hope that they're reading every word. But I've also seen a table, I don't know where it would go, but like a table of inaccuracies. And I do think it's important, like many of these things are based on inaccuracies, but I think we could come up with like a table, just like some of the stuff's just, we know it's just not factually correct. And without going into like what's the implication of it, I wonder if we would just want to say, we just point out, it says this, but this is the, here's like why we think this is not factually correct. And with the correction. Could go at the end, could go in appendix, could go right at the beginning. I don't know how long it would be. It's we've just, I think, covered the ones that we know of. But I think that would be kind of good to just go through that.
Yeah,
to
I agree.
Correct the record. Yeah.
Yep. And when I say source data included into the actual sections or as appendices. Everyone has different ways of doing things, so I just want to make sure I don't mean to be nitpicky, but. Appendices,
I would say appendices.
okay. So now we just have to establish a process. So I know we've conversed and it's more about open meeting law. I know we've conversed, these are the general concepts and topics that we'll be incorporating into our letter. We may find things along the way. If we share it as a letter to the team, that's considered an open meeting, correct? Or I guess I just need help on how we can iterate this letter, or do we just assign two of us to iterate it?
It sounds to me like the two people would be the best, and then bring it back.
Okay. And then the two people can do it offline, get it to a better point, and then present it to the planning board
And the
as a
public at the same time.
recommendation. Okay.
Right.
All right. So I'll definitely put my hand up as one writer. I don't know if anyone wants to join me.
I'll
Okay.
join you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mimi. So I think from my perspective, where I'm in a good place, I think we have some good content here to work with and then kind of nuance. We don't have a lot of time. I mean, we don't have a lot of time. I know, I don't know if people are taking vacations, but I'm taking a couple days here and there. So Mimi, you and I can coordinate. And then maybe we think about the request to Mark Purple to extend. I would like to do that just to have that time. Is that
Yeah.
an official request?
Yeah, I
from
think so.
you? Do we have to take a vote or anything like that?
I don't think we need a vote.
Okay.
That we all agree that, consensus, we all agree is that something we want to do?
Agree.
Yeah, I think that's good enough.
So then maybe it'll be you and me, Mimi, and I'll just kind of offline connect with you. I'll take a first stab at it and then throw it over the transom, and you can kind of take a look at it, iterate. And then I think we just, our next meeting is the 22nd. We've already posted that agenda. Should we have an update on that letter?
Sure.
Because then we'd have 15 days after August 22nd, right? So that would fall to finalize the letter before. And 15 days, is it 15 business days or 15 days?
I think it's 15 days.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's calendar days. Go with
Okay.
that.
And so do we have a meeting on the 5th? No, that's Labor Day.
September 12th, I think, is it? After the 22nd?
Okay, so we'll have to finalize that at the, not finalize, I don't know how we do that, but the 22nd would be almost prime time.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the next one
We
is
don't have another meeting.
September 12th. That's too far.
Okay,
You can always call another meeting if you really, really need to.
okay.
I now have internet up in New Hampshire, so I can even Zoom from up there.
Excellent.
Doomed, you're reachable.
So I mean, I think I'm pretty good. Do you want to, I don't know, do we want to ask if any of the attendees have any other points they want to recommend that we consider for the letter?
Sure. If anyone else has anything else we've missed or they'd like added, just raise your hand. I don't see anyone.
Okay.
Good input.
And Karina, do you want to shoot so do we go through Mark Purple for the extension, or do we ask Mass Housing directly?
He stated at the at our little on-site walkthrough that we didn't walk through to put it through Mark Purple.
Oh, okay. So Karina, do you want to shoot him a request for an extension before your vacation starts?
If she can't, I will.
Okay,
Well, I have a question. So if we ask for the 15 days, it's on top of the deadline, which is August
22nd.
22nd. So that's puts us into September. Do you think we can also ask for a walkthrough? We just might see something while we're up there on our site visit, which I think is to Jesse's point, we probably should visit. Can we do both of those together and ask for a, let us
You can ask for anything you want. I mean, why not?
That's almost,
The worst
that's
case
almost
scenario is
worse.
you're right here where you were before.
it occurs to me that actually belongs in the letter, that a proper site visit has not been allowed. And I'm particularly, unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the quote unquote site visit the other day, but I hope that I could participate in a subsequent opportunity. And I would really be interested in seeing exactly what their points of egress are, on the ground. Debbie and Marnie, since you were there, did they get into really granular, illustrative discussions about the egress during the site visit?
Deb, I'll answer that really quickly. They did not. They kept letting us know that Jason Panos was the primary speaker. He let us know that he was all about peer review and all about working with communities and negotiating, and that they were, these are all very high level, kind of 50,000 foot plans, just what is required for mass housing, but they would provide much more detail when they actually apply through the Zoning Board of Appeals for the comprehensive permit.
Okay.
I don't even think what they did qualifies as a site visit.
No, I wouldn't.
I'm
I
looking
would
up the
think it-
definition and it says you get to go see, touch and feel kind of thing. Determine its suitability, and a visit in an official capacity to examine a site to determine suitability for whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, given that the traffic and the egress is such a huge concern for the town, it does seem inappropriate not to allow a thorough inspection by the.
I think it's a
By the town.
requirement on their application for eligibility. That's why they had it there.
But interestingly, and Deb, let me know, Mr. Busby, now I feel like I'm calling him the wrong name.
Yeah, it's Busby.
No, Busby,
Okay.
yeah, you're right.
Mr. Busby was like, oh, no, we don't need to go through that. We don't need to have that. We're fine right here. So he was very much fine with the way that they had proposed the site visit.
Yeah, but he had been up there before. He
Oh.
was one of those ones that said, I haven't been here
Oh.
since the last site visit. So maybe he
Okay.
did not understand that most people standing there had not been
Hmm,
up there.
You may have just not understood the situation.
Yeah.
Colleen, where did you cite that from?
The site visit
Yeah.
definition comes right out of the free dictionary.
Oh,
Line. I can look it up as far as mass.gov.
yeah. I'm just going to look through. I'm going to scour the application just to see if it is part of the comprehensive thing, like if they define what it is.
Okay.
So I'm looking in the Department of Housing and Community Development regulations now. That says as part of the review process that the agency shall conduct a site visit. Let me see if they define what a site visit is.
I mean, anybody can go stand at the road. A site visit, you know, you're basically giving permission. We used to have closed site visits because maybe there was dangerous something or other, and the owner of the property didn't want the public there. So, you know, but a site visit, you're supposed to have access to the property.
You should be on the site.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't define a site
Okay.
visit, but,
So
So if
we can
not-
I'll
just,
find something.
well, if not defined, then you use the dictionary definition. At the very least, it means on the site.
Yeah. One would think.
I mean, one thing, and I know that, as I mentioned, Concom was interested to, you know, of course, they want to look around for wetlands and they wanted to see the buildings. And, you know, they specifically mentioned the topography and using this topography for these underground garages. And in general, I guess that curiosity, I'd like to know, because the buildings are so close to the residents. I mean, are they looking, you know, are they looking at the top, you know, would the residents see at the top of their building, or would they be looking up at a building? Or, I mean, I just wanted to, like, I just don't have a visual of what the land is like up there. And that also with the gate right there, because it shows, you know, the plans that we have show the 4 buildings. That's exactly as Jesse said. I really wanted to get right there and see. You know, but I think we should have the opportunity to see it before our letter goes in. So sounds like a good plan.
can I just ask one other question too? And it way predates my planning board. This is maybe a Don Morris question. Did Flatley ever apply for a ZBA application for Park Central?
No,
No.
that's funny you bring that up. I'm thinking about putting in a call to Mr. Jenks to see what we can dig up. So I'm just going to make a note, because Phil, if I'm not mistaken, Phil was directly involved in that. So I will call.
Cool. I know I was involved with sitting in meetings. That's why I don't know if it was surprise. All right.
Well,
Mimi, I
Marty,
think,
thanks for taking on all this work and getting us started. You did a great job.
It's a
My
great
pleasure.
start. You
a teamwork.
got a lot of good information there.
so I will, I'll take next stab and then get it over to Mimi, and then we will talk about it, I guess, update the agenda to have some discussion on it for the August 22nd meeting.
Okay, and either Karina or Colleen will ask Mark Purple for an extension for mass housing and a site visit on the site.
With access to site.
Although I will say I walked away with at least 7 mosquito bites just standing there. Thank you very much, everybody, for finding time, and for the public that attended. Really appreciate the support, and I guess we're on to step 2.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
everybody. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Colleen, for your desk.
Thank you. Anytime.
Bye.
Wait, what motion to adjourn? Is this
Oh,
a
that's
meeting?
right.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
And is there a second?
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, Latrell, yes.
Stein, yes.
Oh, Houlihan, yes.
Jameria, yes.
Thank you, Jesse,
Thanks. No worries.
For
See you soon.
keeping me honest. Take
Thanks,
care.
everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.